What's up, everybody? Back with another video. What's up, everybody? Back with another video. Hopefully that didn't repeat, but I saw it. It said it went live and it didn't start yet. Anyways, technology problems. Um, I thought I'd do a video on some things that I've been kind of, I wouldn't say struggling with, but contemplating over the last couple months with my family, my wife, my kids, and you know, I was kind of guided in a way to leave my family, um, because I was playing small. I was playing what everybody else has been taught to play, which is the nuclear family, the husband, the father, the provider, the protector. But when you think of it only as your family, it's a very small kind of a niche that you're a father to. And so when I left my family, I had a bunch of identity deaths. The identity death of a father, the identity death of a husband, the identity death of provider, the identity death of protector, towards my family, among other things. I didn't even probably name all of them. There's probably more. But, yeah, nervous system shut down, all kinds of things. I went through just a whole mess of stuff. But what it did was expanded. It created the possibility to expand that vision of a family into something that um, doesn't really exist in this day and age, or we've kind of disregarded it or let go of that paradigm of maybe living in a tribe or um, living with extended family, et cetera, et cetera. So we live in a nuclear family with just a mom and a dad, and we have our kids and the parents, the grandparents. They live separate. Maybe they're in a nursing home. Maybe they live by themselves. Um, and as collapse nears, collapse of the system that we're currently in, the monetary system, the food system, the shipping and receiving import export system, the agriculture system, as all these things kind of collapse, and it won't happen all at once, the nuclear family is going to become really unstable. And so, really getting back to living with the entire family, the extended family. You have your elders, they're all living with you, and so one thing that with our parents or the kids' grandparents, with them living separate, we have all this knowledge and wisdom that they have that's like separated from us. And yeah, I suppose we can call them, we can whatever, but we've also become so uh, such consumers of knowledge that we feel like we can disregard whatever they're saying because we already know better. And whatever we don't know, we can just go to YouTube and we can, but they've got experiential knowledge. A lot of times on YouTube and other things, they're talking about um, things they read in books and other things they don't know about or they haven't experienced. It's just something that they're contemplating, an idea. And so then we get in these feedback loops of like just information regurgitation that just it gets repeated and repeated and so many times, and we hear it so many times that we just think that it's true now. And so, anyways, really incorporating the parents, the grandparents back into the family, and giving them purpose. They want to be around the family as well, so they can share knowledge. And then there's they can help out. They can cook. They can clean the house, make the beds. They can do things for us. They're not completely useless. But we kind of just like ship them off at the, well, I don't want to deal with that, so we'll just put them in in a nursing home or something, and to an extent, once they hit a certain age, they can become a kind of a burden, more than a help, but, anyways, that's another topic. I'm just talking about, in general, bringing the family together into something greater than this nuclear family. You might call it a tribe, but I'm not trying to go, to ancient time prehistoric times, the what is it? The can't remember, they named them after the metals. Was it the Iron Age or the Copper Age or, the Bronze Age, whatever. We're not going that far back. Things have always worked this way for a long time. This is one of the few eras in time where we've had more comfort and conveniences than we've ever had. We have running water in our house. We have food. You can just go to the grocery store and buy food. It's not real food most of the time. We're buying like fake food that doesn't actually do anything. It gives us calories, but it's not sustenance for our body. It's not what our body needs. Anyways, that's another. It used to be. It used to be. And so a lot of this changed. The nuclear family didn't even come about until World War II. After World War II, we had uh, we had the nuclear family, and schools came about in the early 1900s. So I mean, all of this stuff kind of just was um, conceptualized and brought about recently, and none of this is how things have been done historically. So when the nuclear family is designed for it's designed for stability. It's not designed for collapse. It assumes that strong institutions like schools, jobs, healthcare will still remain in place and a viable option. But with the corruption in our government and the things that are going on, schools aren't reliable. They haven't been updated in 100 years. The stuff they taught 100 years ago is the same things they're still teaching today in school. Uh, Jobs, AI and stuff is taking over a lot of jobs. Healthcare, people can't even afford healthcare. Insurance is so expensive. Um, so a lot of these things are starting to fall apart, and we're starting to see that now. And when these institutions fail, the nuclear family fails. Collapse turns dependence into risks. Children become economic liabilities in the nuclear model. If you can't go to the store and buy food, and I'm not saying that's going to happen tomorrow, but over the next couple years, 5 to 10 years, we're going to see, we might see stuff like this where, you really want to start growing your own food, but if you can't go to the store and buy food, you have stuff that's happening right now in California where they've got locks, chains, and locks on the freezer store aisles. Or I haven't actually been there. I just read stuff about it, but because they made it legal to go in and steal food, anything under, I don't know if it was 500 or $2,000, it wasn't considered a felony or a misdemeanor or something. Like, they're basically not enforcing the rules, and people can just go into a store and steal whatever they want. And as long as they do that, then the stores aren't making money; they're losing money, and then the store ends up closing down, and now you've got fewer and fewer stores to choose from. If you're living in California and a bunch of stores close down in your area, you might end up driving 20, 30 minutes, an hour to the nearest store. Not only that, but even if the store is close to you, but all the other stores close down, other people are driving. Now your store is busier than ever, and it's only got enough food for so many people, but you're trying to feed millions of people out of just a few select locations. things can get chaotic quickly. Um, so a tribe, the old tribe model, it turns children into contributors plus future sovereigns. In the nuclear model, they're more liabilities because you if you're going to work, but then you can't find school isn't there's no public education anymore. Now you have to pay for daycare, or you've got to find somebody to sit for you. It's just not viable, but you're also not, schools haven't been teaching for the longest time now. They haven't been teaching kids how to actually like teaching them real skills that they need to like, okay, you can learn math and you can learn calculus and you can learn English literature. That's probably not a good example, but math. I'm not saying disregard math, but calculus is not going to help you in the real world for the most part, unless you're a mathematician or doing something with that. It's not going to help you. It doesn't help you grow food. It doesn't help you gather water. It doesn't help you protect the family. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help you in so many ways. So, I think even home ec, cooking, which I think is extremely important. You need to know how to grow food as well as uh, to know how to cook food. Most people don't even know how to cook. They eat out. They eat the fake food that's out there from McDonald's or even at the store. And some of that stuff is just fake. All the processed foods, crackers, cookies, Oreos, whatever, you name it. All that stuff is just fake food. It's just empty calories. Um, so, on to my next point, divorce as proof the system is already broken. The divorce rate is like 50%. Um, it's a data point of systemic misalignment. Couples aren't failing. The architecture is. So the tribe model, in the nuclear family, you get divorced, everybody separates. Now you're not even a nuclear family, you're like half a nuclear family. It's like, well, maybe the kids go with the wife and the dad goes on his own, and maybe they split custody or the dad pays child support, something like that. But now the family is even worse. It's even more fragmented than it was before. But in a tribe setting scenario, you don't really have you wouldn't just abandon your wife and kids. You don't have to be together, but they're still inclusive. It's still inclusive of them. You could still have proximity. You can still get along. You can still work together. You're right there. So I guess I'm leaning more towards smaller communities. When collapse happens, people need to um, I'm trying to people need to uh, you need each other. There was a book that I had read about the 2001 collapse in Argentina. I forget the name of it. I can look it up if somebody asks me in the comments. I have it, the real book, not a PDF or something. Um, and he talks about the number one most important thing during a collapse is community. If you're by yourself, you're done. You're not going to make it. It doesn't matter if you have everything you need. You got water, you got food. What if somebody robs you? What if your food goes moldy? What if your water goes bad? Um, you need community to help you out and to work together. Let's say you're growing your own food and you grow corn. Other people want corn. You have an abundance of corn, but you want to eat some other things. Oh, well, let me trade you some corn for some tomatoes, or I'll trade you some corn for some broccoli. So you can trade for things, and I think the future, these cities are just death traps, basically. If you can't get food, what do they call it? Another name for a city is the concrete jungle. The concrete jungle is just a bunch of concrete. I think during World War II, actually, they needed food for the troops, for the people that were fighting for the country, and so people started turning their yards into gardens. Their whole front yard would be used for growing food. Obviously, we've gotten away from that. Now we're all about mowing our lawn, and if you don't mow your lawn, it's like your neighbor is like, you know, tisking you, or you know, all these people manicured, perfectly manicured lawns. It's just kind of ridiculous. Anyways, so I'm a little bit all over the place because this is the first time I'm kind of talking about this, but I'll try to make more videos about it. Um, and so another issue with the nuclear family is our culture expects a woman to be a queen, a matriarch, a lover, a mother, a worker. How many people is that in one person? Because a tribe would separate those out into individual roles. The, the matriarch might be the mother and matriarch. You might not have a lover, and you need workers, and you need a queen. They all have their own individual roles, and we don't have that today. Just wife does everything, husband does everything. That's not how it works in a tribe. Um, a commune model is kind of the thing that I'm leaning towards. A commune is a community of 200 to 2,000 people that kind of gathered together on a piece of land, and you could call it a tribe. I'm saying a commune is kind of a more modern way of describing a tribe. Um, yeah, so collapse reintroduces tribe. Financial instability leads to resource sharing, childcare sharing, multi-role parenting, matriarch versus a queen, distributed skill and labor. Um, you know, in Penny Kelly's talked about communes a bit in her book, The Robes. She's also got a book called Revival that talks about, it kind of questions the current systems and, how could we rethink them? Because if we create the same, if we say, oh, well, the old system just got corrupt and we like the way it wasn't built for us. This is a debt slave model that doesn't work for the average person. We may think it does, but we need to shift our mindset to the future and something that actually works for everyone, not just the select few or the 1% or the 1% of the 1%, as some people like to say. So yeah, let's see. Uh, Children can't be raised in isolation. They need to be around other children. But in the nuclear family, that's kind of how it is. But in a tribe, multi-family, multi-generational, all the kids are playing together. It's, you could think of it like a neighborhood. A neighborhood could be its own community. It is its own community, but not in the way that we think about it today. Let me see what else. A collapse decentralizes. So that's kind of what I was talking about um, with the grocery stores, possibly with the water or something like that. Where if you don't have water coming into your house, all of a sudden, like, what are you going to do? It was centralized. It was coming from a central point of origin into your house. And now it's not. Now it's decentralized. Now I gotta go what? Go to this lake. I gotta drive to this lake, scoop the water out with a bucket, bring it home, boil it, and you know what? I hope we're not going back to those kind of times, but um, let's just skip the water for a moment. Food. If you don't have the food, if you can't just go to a store and get it, you've got to grow it yourself. And going to the store and getting it, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that that'll ever 100% stop, but we've already seen the increased prices in food, where if it gets so expensive, how many jobs do you got to work just to feed yourself? And I'm not talking about, you know, there could be a point one day where you're just breaking even just to eat because food's gotten so expensive and you're competing with other people to eat versus you grow your own food. Let's say you live on a home with a well. I've lived on a home with a well before. I'm not currently, but you're pretty much sovereign at that point. You don't need anything. You don't need the government. You just need a community probably for protection so that you don't get robbed or killed or something like that. But if you're growing your own food, you have your own food, you got a well, you got your own water. What else do you need for survival? You need shelter, you need clothing. Um, you pretty much don't have to work. If you own your house, I don't know. That's another story. But um, romance. Why romance is not enough for a nuclear family? Romance was cheap stability glue during the stability era. So while things are stable, they had us focused on romance and love, and um, this is what life is supposed to be like. And oh, it's Valentine's Day. I got to go buy chocolates or flowers. That's not what love is. Um, Collapse dissolves romance, but reveals function. So, all of a sudden, when you're in a semi-survival state where you're growing your own food, you got your own water, all of a sudden everybody has their purpose. There is no trophy wives or whatever. You don't have time for that. You can't have one person sitting around doing nothing while everybody is doing something to survive. So, love does not equal lineage, does not equal governance. Um, there's so much I could go on and talk about more. Like I said, kind of a half baked video just because this is my first time talking about this, but I feel like this is the direction for the channel. Not 100% this, but I want to start talking about the collapse more and how do we prepare, not as preppers, but how do we go back living to the old ways? It doesn't mean we have to give up technology and these other things, but we need to become sovereign. We can't be dependent on the system. If you become dependent on the system, then you're still a slave to the system and you don't have a choice. If they cut you off for food because you didn't pay your taxes or you weren't whatever, all of a sudden you're scrambling and you can't just learn how to grow food overnight. Do you live in an area where you can grow food year round? Can you grow food inside your house in the wintertime if you live in a cold area? If the grid goes down, which it's extremely unstable and highly likely that the grid could go down, and in certain areas it could be down for months or a year, up to months or a year. Can you, living in Minnesota, we couldn't survive a winter without heat. It's too cold up here. And I don't know if that'll ever happen, but Um, we need to start thinking about these things because most people aren't. Most people are still stuck in the illusion that this is how life has always been and it's only going to get better from here on out. I don't see it that way. So, yeah, this is kind of a triggering video. I could see like a lot of people getting triggered by some of the things I had to say in here, and that's okay. Let's stir up some discussion. Post in the comments. I'd love to hear what you had to say. Um, where do you think we're going? If you like this video, please like it so that I know that you like it and I can continue making more content like this. I can elaborate more, go deeper into some of these subjects. But yeah, until then, thank you so much if you stayed this long in the video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.